But some kids, yeah, like my daughter, she's just like has to think what I'm saying, and then she's like, did you hear what I said? And it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and then she has to think of an answer. So she might just be a bit like, hang on, we call it buffering, when we have to buffer. So we just, it's just thinking, it's just processing everything that's processing the environment as well, and it's just
that's an excellent term for it. I think other people would understand it a lot more actually if it was kind of more described like that, of going, just give someone a chance to buffer for a moment and then they'll be with you.
That's it, because you think about it, like, your computer is like it's like a brain, isn't it? If you put if you just like click so many windows at the same time and you multitasking like crazy, it's just gonna struggle. So it's gonna have to take a little bit of time to process stuff and then come back to it as and when. So it's so I guess we call it buffering because it's just like, that's what it is. You're just thinking. It's not just thinking about what is being said, it's processing everything that's been said. So I find, obviously I know that she's not being rude, she's not ignoring me. I know when she's ignoring me though. I know when she's ignoring me, she'll look at me, she'll look and be like, ignoring me.
Selective hearing.
Yeah, selective hearing, of course. I'm glad that someone else knows selective hearing too. So and so obviously as a parent, when it's an autistic thing or when it's just a child being a child. Yeah,
it is. And it's like when you go about the operating system, it is one of those things where that has kind of came out in the last couple of years, that description of it's not something that's wrong with them, it's that we're on Mac and they're on Windows or they're on Unix or something like that. It is, and like I say, it's that processing thing. It's what they process faster than what we process, and what they'll get quicker than we'll get. It's just, it's the same but different. I think is
absolutely. It's I think it's a great analogy there, to be fair. Absolutely.
I think it's telling them that there's nothing wrong with them.
No.
I think is the biggest thing of, I think sometimes, my eldest, when we were going through it, actually, he came out with something and said, am I sick? And I was like, no, you're not poorly. And I actually, because I have bipolar and I have to have medication, I always describe it to them as user on different operating systems. That's it. That's the difference. I was like, my brain kind of has a virus. I was like, so I have to look after mine. I was like, mine is kind of an illness. I know mental health is looked at differently now, but I'm totally secure in talking about it, and I'm totally happy with my batshit status for myself. I don't care. But it was that kind of thing of going, I have to have medication, so mine's more classed as an illness. You just have, like you say, a different way of processing things. And I think that's the thing. It's getting away from them thinking it's an illness, and it's not. It's absolutely not. And sometimes I delight in, I can't think of anything really off the top of my head, but sometimes you'll just be doing something or you'll be having a day out, and I'm sure you'll have the same thing, where that kind of literal thinking that they have, or like I say, different processing, they'll notice something in a different way that you do, and they'll say something, and you're kind of slightly taken aback for a moment of going, but yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And there's another thing, it always makes me laugh about my son, my eldest, was that there was one day we were talking about movies and things like that, and I'd said something about, well, I don't think you've watched, I was like, it always makes me cry loads, but I don't think you've watched Watership Down. And he went, why would I be interested in a film about the Titanic? And it took me processing there about 30 seconds of going, what? And then realised, because he didn't know the context of the film, all he heard was water, ship, down, and his brain just automatically leaped to, oh, it must be about the Titanic or something. So it was like, yeah, you see things on an entirely different level, and actually it's generally more fascinating than anything else. The very small challenges, I think, are massively outweighed. I don't think people realise how much you laugh when you've got children like that in the house.
Oh, yes.
It's hilarious. The times when it's not meant to be. In fact, the times when it's not meant to be are the times when it's funniest. And it's the way they know how to push your buttons and to wind you up. I mean, the only good thing about them is, like, I don't know what you find with your daughter, but they can't lie. It's hilarious when they try. It is the funniest thing in the world when they try to lie, because it always kind of goes around the houses and they never quite get there. But at the same time, you can see it all over their face. Like, there's no, they can mask everything else, but lying is way out of their control.
Yeah,
So sometimes it's just
absolutely.
funny to go, how do you think you're getting away with this? This is,
But
it's,
sometimes they just let it slip though, because they're trying to lie about something completely ridiculous that doesn't really
yeah,
like. Oh, did you eat the last slice of cake? No.
yeah. It's always about some things that are really, really kind of minor and trivial and stuff. And they're really trying their best, and you're just watching and going. And I would just say to them, like, why? Do you know I can tell? Like, it's not even just a mother's instinct. Like, a complete stranger could walk in here right now and tell from the glint in your eye and the look on your face that you're lying through your teeth. It's just.
But then they get like quite chuffed, quite happy with themselves. So it's like, I just told a lie, got away with it. It's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah. There's definitely more humour in it than anything else. I mean, my youngest he's so dry. His humour is so dry and sarcastic, and his one-liners that he can come out with in the middle of a conversation. I mean, he's terrible for when you just talk. I mean, if he was here and we were talking and there was something he thought was funny or that he could, like, say, he could do a one-liner about, he would just walk straight through the room and just say it and then just keep walking while you're absolutely beside yourself laughing. And he's actually got quite dark at the minute as well, which is really funny as well, because that actually does make you kind of gasp and go, that's awful, I can't believe you've just said that. But actually it's quite sweet at the same time.
I sometimes wonder what they're thinking, like what's their, when we say something, we're having a conversation, and then they come out with these like just random things. You just think like, oh, I wish I could, like, live in your brain for 5 minutes to see what's going on in there.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely the phrase. I've said that repeatedly. Just like I said, like sometimes you'll be out, and sometimes it often when we're in places like kind of like museums or theme parks or days out and stuff, and they'll just interpret something, they'll just say something out loud, and you go, I would love just to be able to be here and spend this time and see all of this how you're seeing it. It'd be really, really interesting. I would totally agree with you there. I think it would be a fantastic way to deal with it.
Yeah, just to see what's what goes on in there. It's To be fair, like I would not change them for the world, and they are great kids. Obviously, yeah, it can be so hard sometimes. It can be emotionally challenging. I don't know, I would say that 85% of the time, everything's fine, because obviously we have things in place, we have our routines, we have things that we can do to avoid them having, a meltdown or having them some kind of distress. But then there are times where you can't just, you can't help it. They will have a tantrum because, like, I'll give you an example. My daughter, she doesn't like to play games where there's winning or losing. So if she loses, she will go into like meltdown. But also, she is actually doing better. She's been playing Mario Kart, and she's actually getting better. But if she comes second place, she loses her shit. She'll go into like meltdown mode and says, it's all right, better come second or third than come 12th. And so I try to, because if it was a stranger, the stranger would be like, oh, she's just having it to do. When it's not, she's just, upset.
I mean, I made sets of cards on lanyards for my son on different subjects, and one of them was losing games and polite ways of accepting that you've lost a game instead of flipping out or telling the person that they've cheated or any of those kind of things. And it's that also, I don't know whether you find this as well, I've had that with both of them, is Christmas and birthdays and trying to get them not to go, I didn't ask for this. we had a set of cards for him that just went, these are polite things to say. You were allowed to know that in your head you didn't want this and you didn't ask for this. But actually, people get quite offended when they've bought you something. I very much over the years have like said to everyone, I was like, don't deviate from the list. Just seriously, you're wasting your money. But, you know, and family, like straight away are always like, just ask us what he wants. But it is kind of when other people do it, and like it was a long process to just go. You can't just go, I don't like this. I know that's what you think, but you can't say that out loud. That's not appropriate. And it's also been teaching them. I love the one where I used to stop my son. It's my eldest. My youngest doesn't really do this, but my eldest will say, I don't mean to be rude, or don't take this personally. I used to stop him and go, right, can I just stop you for a moment? You go on. If you're saying I don't mean to be rude, that's your brain already flashing up to you that you're about to say something that the person thinks is rude. So maybe that's your point where you need to stop and reconsider. Like, it's like you say, it's that buffering thing. Your brain's just put that little buffer in of kind of going, use that as a key to go, hang on a moment, I've just had to warn this person not to take this personally or anything. Is this something that really needs to be said? Because I think with children on the spectrum, they are very blunt, and they do just come out with what they're thinking. So trying to kind of get that coping strategy in of going, right, I know you didn't mean to point at that person in the street because they looked strange, but you just can't do that because that's seen an entirely different way than you think.
God, could tell you so many stories. Honestly, could be here the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, it's.
I have that couple of things where you go, but if you want to know whether your bum looks big in that skirt, find someone with autism, because they will tell you.
Oh God, yes.
If you just say, be honest and tell me, does this look okay? They're going to tell you whether it looks okay or not.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, talking about bluntness, actually, I always thought that I was just, well, when I was a kid, my mum used to tell me that I was just rude, you know, that I was being rude. But then in my head, it's like, well, I'm not being rude. I'm just saying what they've asked me a question, so I'm just answering said question.
Yeah,
I never thought it was being rude. But that's why, like, when I know the way my daughter thinks, so I just be like, right, she's not being rude, she's just telling us like it is. And I think it's good though, because we want them to keep talking, okay? Because you don't want them to, you know, hide behind their feelings and stuff like that. I'd rather, even if I find it, like, if she wasn't unhappy with anything, I'd rather her tell me, like, Mum, you shouted at me and I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Rather than like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. Like, if I'm a loud person anyway, so when I talk, when I'm talking, it just seems like I'm shouting, but I'm not shouting.
I have exactly the same thing. My youngest does the same, because he'll go, you're shouting at me, and I'm like, I'm not shouting, I'm perfectly calm. And he shuts down as soon as he thinks that. And we've had the discussion with school, whereas, I mean, like, say I'm loud and I'm constantly shouting and tough. They're used to it, it's fine. But we had to have someone from CAMS in to tell them that if someone was telling him something he was doing was wrong, and not in a he was being naughty way, just in something he was doing, even if it was in work, if he heard something in that kind of tone, his brain processes it as shouting. And it was trying to get across to them of going, right, I know you're not shouting, but you've really got to reconsider how you say things, because that's how his brain interprets it, and we can't change that, because they said that is actually part of the, I guess, like you say, it's the processing disorder, the sensory disorder side of it, was that just somewhere in his brain it clicks and goes. I mean, I'm not to say he doesn't use that at home just to duck out of a conversation, but he'll just go, you're shouting, man. I'm not shouting, but you just don't want to listen to what I'm saying. Which again, it's what we were saying before. You can see when it's don't even try that. I know exactly what you're thinking. You understand perfectly what I'm telling you, and you are just acting up.
You just know,
we're gonna have a serious
you just know They don't even have to tell you. It's just you know before they tell you. It's you just know it. Yeah, absolutely. It's what it's what being a parent is all about, and everything makes it extra special.